the previous video, I promised you that we would go through our code and see how it works. Now, if this file is not opened for you by default, just go here, click File, and it should be in Open Recent, like right here. But if you cannot see it here either, just click Open, go to the directory where you saved your file, and just open that directory and choose your file. It's pretty easy. Now, let me uncomment this. And you might be wondering, why do we need to put these quotation marks here? That is because by doing this, we are telling Python that this is a string data type. Now, string data type, you can think of it as a textual data type. When you specify that it's a string, Python understands that you intend it to be a text. Now, there are other data types in Python as well. For example, this right here is an integer data type, x equals 4. This means it's integer. Now, if you have experience in other programming languages like C++ or Java, you know that in those languages you first need to specify the data type. For example, you would write something like this, but in Python that's unnecessary. Python, basically you can just write the variable and then assign the value to it, and Python understands what you intend it to be. There is another important data type in Python called float data type. For example, when we ran this code and we got the average right here, this is a float data type because float represents real numbers. Interestingly though, whatever data type you pass to print, the print function first converts it into string and then prints it. Now, if you don't know what the type of the variable is, Python lets us find it out very easily. We're just gonna write type and then pass the variable in question. For example, let's say we don't know the type of k. We're just gonna pass k here, and of course we need to print it in order to be able to read what this generates and execute the code. So it says here class int, which means that it's the integer data type. We can do this like this as well. Like if we put in into quotation marks, what will it say? What do you think? Now it's a string. So why did that happen? Now, even though we wrote k here, which is the integer data type, we put it into quotation marks. So this means that we turned it into a string. So it's no longer referring to this variable. Python reads it as just a text which says k. The type of nums is, let's find out, a list. It's a data structure. It's also called sequence type. We will learn more about data structures in the next video. Now, another very important data type is called Boolean. Boolean data type only takes two values. It's either true or false. So let's create a Boolean expression. Now, this thing right here is called a Boolean expression. Don't get confused with this equals sign. It's just, basically you can read this as does 5 equal 5. So if we print this, this will either print true or false. So if it's true, it will print true. So of course it prints true. Now if we put here 5 equals 4, this would print false because 5 does not equal 4. Now if we print the type of it, again, this will print bool, which stands for Boolean. Now this data type is important for data analysts because very often you want to filter out your data based on some conditions. Now this takes us to if statements, which is also very important in Python. So let's go ahead and see what it's like. Let's say that we want to, let's say we only care about x if its value is large. Let's say larger than 1,000. So the way we would do this is if, open parenthesis, x is more than 1,000, colon, and then we click enter. And I'm going to explain this indentation soon. But for now, just print x. So if x is more than 1000, it will print x, otherwise it won't. So let's see what this code does now. Now x equals 4, so it didn't print anything. Now if we change its value to, let's say, 1001, now it printed x. Now let's say that even if x is not more than 1000, we want it to still print something. The way we do it is use the else statement. And then we print x is less than 1000. And let's give this value of 15, which is less than 1000. Here, now it didn't print x, now it printed whatever's inside the body of else statement, which is x is less than 1000. So what happened here? This is a Boolean expression. So when this was true, the code came inside here and executed whatever was written here. But when this was false, like when we assigned 15 to the value of x, the code, the compiler ignored what's written here because this is not true. So if it's not true, it just completely skips whatever's inside the body of the if statement. When we have the else statement alongside with if, it goes right here and does whatever's inside the body of the else statement. But if we don't have that, it basically just continues running the code. Like maybe you had here print just chilling. Right now I just continued and printed just chilling. You can play around this Boolean expressions. For example, you can do x is more than 1000 and another expression here, and y is less than 300. It's a good practice to put them into parentheses to be able to tell them apart more easily. Let's just do it like that. Let's assign x the value of 1001 again. Now it will print x and y. Now they're both true. Now when you put this AND statement, this means that both of these expressions, this one and this one, must be true. It will only execute whatever's inside the body of the if statement only if they're both true. So let's say if we change it to 999, now it didn't print anything because this expression is not true. But if we had put here OR, this would print it, because OR means that at least one of these is true. So when we put OR here, we're basically asking Python, is this one true or this one true? So if that's the case, then go to this body and do whatever is written there. You can add other expressions here as well. For example, like this, checking if y is even. This basically says that remainder of y divided by 2 equals or not 0. So you could add more of this. You could use strings there. For example, let's say data equals dd, which this one will be false, but it will still execute because at least one of these statements is true and we're just having ORs here. So basically you can play around this. Now I want to address a couple of issues that you might have experienced while following along. If you put a spacing somewhere in the code like this and try to execute the code, you'll see an error. You'll get an error message. And this time, process finished with exit code 1, it's no longer 0. This means that an error occurred and it says indentation error. Now that is because Python uses indentation for indicating a block of code. So indentation in Python is very important. Make sure to not leave any unnecessary spacings. And also, remember when we clicked enter right here, it took us here instead of taking us at the very start of the line. That is because Python knows that we wanted to write something inside the body of if statement, and the way that Python tells apart what's inside the body of the if statement and what's the rest of the code is indentation. So if you stop here and click tab, this is where the body of the if statement is located, and everything that's right under here, like you could write, say, print y and then print z, then assign the new value to z, like x plus x minus y, and so on. Now everything that's along this line, vertical line right here, belongs to the body of this if statement. Once you go back here and start writing, let's say print, I don't know, no longer if statement body. Now this is no longer the if statement's body. So this body is terminated here, and after that, even if you do one tab again, it's no longer if statement's body either. Beware of the unnecessary symbols as well. For example, if you accidentally wrote a comma here and you executed the code, you see there's an error again. So you try to get rid of these. Now, it's a very good practice to look at what the error message says. This is the error message. So it says syntax error, invalid syntax. Now, that's because we had this, and this is not part of Python's syntax. When we used wrong spacing, we had a different kind of error message. Here now it says indentation error. Now, as your code gets larger and larger, these messages will get more and more important for you, because there will be cases when you have no idea what is wrong with your code. In that case, it's a great practice to just copy and paste this error message inside the Google search bar and click enter, see what it says, see what the links it suggests, go through some of them, and it will most likely help you solve your issue, because the chances are that somebody else already made the same mistakes that you're making, or something similar to them, that you can adjust and apply the solution to your problem. So today we learned very important parts of Python coding fundamentals. I encourage you to play around what you've learned so far and get ready for the next video, because next we will learn the concepts that use the material learned so far, and all of these will be heavily used in your project that we will start working on shortly. Now let's save this file by clicking File and Save All, or alternatively you can use the shortcut by Ctrl+S, and I'll see you in the next video.